Good morning. We'll call to order the meeting of the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee Thursday, July 16th. And committee members Randy Brown, John Hunt, Judith Hubbard, and Dan Wakeman are joining me this morning. A fairly good number of items on the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda? I'm going to reorder a little bit when we get to highway, but they'll all be covered. Is there any public comment that we're aware of? Going once, going twice. Minutes of June 18th were distributed. Are there any corrections, additions, or motions? Was that a motion to approve, Dan? Judith seconds. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? The minutes are approved. Chair's report. Nothing remarkable. Just mention that we will have a presentation next month from Finger Lakes Reuse Center, and Leo is working with Diane Cohen to put together something for us to tell us about the progress they're making and the moves that they've made in recent months. County administration, course, is online with us. Norma's here with us, and we've got 2 resolutions and a report on the History Center. Morning, Corsa.
Morning. Norma got it.
Yeah, so I have I really have no other reports other than the resolutions that you have on the agenda. So if you folks want to.
Okay, we've got a resolution under 6A, renewal of the Tompkins County Department of Motor Vehicles lease, ID number 14159. Do we have a motion to put that on the floor? Judith moves, Dan seconds. And we did see this last month, and I know that John had raised a question. And
yes, and I followed up with our facilities department, who they worked with the motor vehicle department as well as the landlord, and the leak has been repaired, and as soon as we've renewed our lease, they will begin making they're going to make some adjustments to the lighting and replace ceiling tiles and such, but they're not doing that work until we've renewed our lease.
Thank you. Appreciate the follow-up on that, and thanks for raising the question, John. And the leases back resolutions in front of us includes no rate increase for the first 3 years of the renewal with an early termination option. Any further questions or comments? If not, shall we vote? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Norma. Resolutions under 6B, authorization to appropriate funds from the contingent fund for replacement of the Highway Division sign truck, ID number 14220. Do we have a motion? Randy, second. Dan.
Yeah, so this was we had a motor vehicle accident a month or so ago, and after the evaluation of the vehicle and the insurance recovery, to pay for the upfit, we've identified that cost of that upfit is we're about $36,000 short from what the insurance company would reimburse us. That's why we're asking for those funds, so that we can get that truck up and running. Right now, they're making do with what they have, but it's not the best situation for the department.
Just a question for you, just more of an education thing. The county's self-insured in many aspects and has the coverage for catastrophic losses. Vehicles fall underneath separate policy? Yeah,
we have a policy for vehicles, so that's what Jesse submitted that loss, the estimates to the insurance company. Probably due, I mean, Nick may have more information, but probably due to the value or the age of the truck. You know how it goes. If anybody's ever been in a motor vehicle accident, they're not going to give you even what you owe for the they're just going to give you what the market value is at the time. So that's what we're working with at this point. And they certainly don't replace all the equipment that was on that.
Understood. Dan?
2 questions. Replace all the equipment. That would be a separate insurance then, wouldn't it, for the additional equipment?
That's really the part that's our self-insured.
That's our self-insured. That's what we're talking about. Okay. My question then is have we got the replacement vehicle already?
The replacement vehicle, the folks at the back table, that's Terry and Nick have been working on that. So yeah, that's in the works of being.
Okay, so we're in the process. It's not like, okay.
Everything has, nothing has stalled, but really what we need to do now is we have to secure an agreement with the folks that do the upfitting, and
Okay,
that's what this will do for us.
Hi, Judith.
How old was the truck that was damaged? You know?
That was a good.
I'm wondering, like, when would it have normally been replaced?
Over, Nick, I can respond.
2019.
That was an old truck. No, 2019.
Yeah, I assume at some point we would have been replacing it anyway, but maybe we could have kept the equipment that was on it and put it and moved
No,
it
the
over.
equipment was damaged.
I know.
Oh.
In the
Oh, yes,
alternate world where this accident had not happened.
Perfect world, it's possible that the equipment would have been able to be transferred over.
Okay. And so we have this, for education, again, we have this policy for equipment, like when a vehicle is damaged, we get insurance payouts.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody is injured in an accident, are we covered for that or not covered for that?
I'll provide you, I don't have all the answers to that. I'll get you information about what that coverage looks like. I'm making the assumption that yes, there's a
Vehicle policies would,
as well in the vehicle, but I don't know at what level. So we'll be happy to get that over to the committee.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Randy?
Yeah, I was just curious, first of all, was anybody hurt? And just, did you learn anything from this? Or was it purely just somebody not paying attention and running into the truck? Or I was curious if there was a learning experience here.
All right.
I'm saying that because in the town I live in, quite often, they don't put men working signs up and you go around a corner and all of a sudden there they are. So I was just curious.
So first part, they were bumps and bruises mainly. Everybody, there's 2 people in the truck, 2 employees. They went to hospital, got checked out. One had a concussion, one scrapes, bumps, bruises, nothing bad, luckily. But they were T-boned. There was another truck that ran the stop sign.
That West Dryden and Hanshaw?
It's West Dryden and Wood.
Yeah.
We had misspoke partway through that when we let everybody know, but it was Wood Road. Yeah, so it was nothing, we were out checking signs actually because we had chip sealed and it saw one of our temporary signs was blown over, said they'd gone down, turned around and were headed back and then got T-boned going through that intersection.
How was the other person, were they taken to the hospital as well?
Both of them were taken to the hospital, one worse injuries than the other, but everybody walked away that day and went home.
Oh, good. Good. Thanks. Thank you.
Judith?
If the accident was the other party's fault, are we not able to go after them to recover the cost of the damaged equipment?
So Jesse is in the middle of that right now. I do know that we did an appraisal on our side from our insurance company, and I believe it was last Thursday or Friday, the appraiser from the other company came for that.
So that's still under discussion, or?
I think it's going to try to be under negotiation of who's paying, where they land. But either way, their number is lower than our number, and neither one of them will touch the upfit.
I mean, I assume the vehicle is old, so if we're replacing it with something new, we don't get the full value. But it seems like they should be responsible for covering the cost of damaged equipment if they are the ones who crashed into it.
Yes, you would hope that would cover everything,
Yeah.
but I want to say, I don't have the quotes in front of me, but I want to say ours was around in the 60s, low 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Theirs is in the low 40s. I'm sure those are going to be negotiated, but just the truck, was that?
I can tell you.
50, 58, 68, somewhere's in there.
Right.
We had put that out to bid, and actually a dealership out of Elmira won the bid. They have it sitting there. So that's going to go from there to the upfit. So either way, it looks like the insurance is going to be a little short of covering just the cabin chassis. This $36,000 is for the upfit. That is for the utility box and customizations to that for our sign package and live hydraulics for our tools that runs.
Thank you.
Further questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Thank you. We'll see that on the full agenda, and being out of contingency, there'll be a number of votes required to make that happen.
We'll go through the BCP next month and then to the legislature, full legislature.
Okay, thanks. We have a report regarding the History Center.
Yeah, and in this case, I'll just really, so we've begun collecting, as we've said we would, collecting data from all of the agencies that we financially support through our budget. This is the first of the many reports that are going to be created for different committees. This one just happens to be one that comes to the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. But basically what they've done, what we're asking them to do is to provide us what type of services they have provided within their, within the funding stream that they receive from the county, as well as, you know, where we are with the expenditures, how many people they've served, and so on. So this is our first, it's a new pilot for us. I'm sure there'll be bumps and bruises as we go through and corrections, but at the present time, I think it's going to be helpful for the legislature to understand how those funds are being used, particularly as we head into the budget deliberations in September.
Questions? Randy?
Yeah, it was good in the report to read it and see the number of people coming, the number of events. So that's helpful for me, so I appreciate that. The one thing that we talked about before was the rentals in that property, and we actually. So my thought is that whatever we're paying for rent, you know, places, then the people who are in that building, I know they're nonprofits and all those things, they should be paying something close to what we're paying for our own space. And I'd like to at some point see a report on that to see where those various leases are, to see if they're in line with what we're paying for space that we need for ourselves. There's and I know facilities is not here right now, but I know that they're looking at a roof as well. So I know that's on your list of things that need to be done. I did go over there again. I've been walking around the buildings, and they did move the
Trash
recycling things so they couldn't be on the roof. However, somebody is still staying in the shed. I walked back in there a couple of days ago, and somebody is, it looks like nighttime, staying in those sheds back there. And they should be removed. And there's a metal gate there that could be locked as well that would stop a lot of that stuff. I think it's still fairly easy if people get on that roof, so we need a longer term solution, but yeah, I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Thank you. I will say too that we have an agreement right now for the, if you don't mind.
Please.
We have an agreement right now for those leases for that building, and they go through, I believe, until 2030. That got signed about a year and a half ago, so it's a relatively new agreement with the agencies. It is not at market rate for sure. Happy to provide you a report of what that is, but unfortunately, we don't have the ability to make a change to that lease until it expires, and I believe it's 2030, but I'll get those answers for you.
And you can tell us the length of the leases, those kinds of things?
Yep.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Judith.
I agree. I think it would be great to see that information. We're in a budget crunch now, so it's a bit of a shame that we don't have access to the ability to change things now within reason, but we may be in a budget crunch in 2032. So having, time to consider what the right option is. Certainly we have some years to come up with a plan. The other thing I would note is I'm looking at these numbers. It is helpful to see numbers, but it would be more helpful if there were 2 or 3 lines under each category explaining what they are. Like events and public programming, I can see in Q2 that we had 37 Tompkins County residents served and 775 residents from outside the county. It just leaves me wondering, what are these events that they're drawing so many people from outside the county and so few from within it? Just brief explanations would be helpful.
Okay. Thank you.
My kids did go on field trips to the History Center last year, my 2 youngest, and they really liked it. I mean, it's a great space. I really appreciate what people have put together.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Well, thank you, Norma.
Yep, you're welcome.
We'll move ahead. Department of Planning and Sustainability, Terry's with us, and we have a resolution, Department of Environmental Conservation, DEC, Climate Smart Communities, grant authorization for district geothermal expansion, ID number 14213. Moved by Dan, second by Judith. Good morning.
Good morning. So last month we were talking a little bit about geothermal. We discussed the phase 2 that we've been looking at. So just to level set, phase 1 is what's being planned through the center of government process. It's the installation of 2 wells to create an open loop geothermal system and the associated equipment that would then service the new center of government building. What we're now looking at as a phase 2 would be the expansion of that system to then serve this building and then the 2 buildings next door, the old jail and the main courthouse. The report that we've received that's still in draft form and it's being finalized with NYSERDA pegs that cost at, I think it might even be in the resolution, right around $5.3 million, $5,200,000. We are pursuing a grant through this year's CFA cycle, the Consolidated Funding Application, for $2 million to help support that project. So that would leave the remaining kind of $3-ish million for the county to fund in some way if we're not able to find other grants and other ways to support it. In order to apply for that grant, we're required by the stipulations of the grant process to have a resolution passed by the legislature authorizing us to pursue that money, as well as saying that the county can meet the match for the funding. And so it's a 50% match. So if it's a $4 million project, they'll put in $2 million, you put in $2 million. We are asking for $2 million, so we'd have to match with $2 million, even though the project cost is exceeding that. So we'll be going over what the match requirement would be for this particular project. I will say that this project, this expansion project, has not been authorized at this point by the legislature. We acknowledge that. We do think that this is an opportunity and that we do have a good chance to pursue this money. If we were to get it, the award would be notified to the county in December of this year. We'd go through contracting, probably, we're in actually the process of doing that for our last CFA grant, and we're still in that process, so it'll take 6 to 7 months probably to get that contract signed. And then you have 5 years to spend the funding. And so it would, if we did sign that contract, it would be committing the county to moving forward with that project within the next 5 years or giving up that grant. We could also receive the grant and ultimately not move forward. It's not a good look. So this is a decision that in some way is being made by the legislature. So I don't want to hide that fact that it is a soft commitment in a way. It's not ultimately saying that the county is committing to spending that money, but there are repercussions if we decide to apply for this and not move forward. So the grant is due at the end of July. So that's why we brought this to F&I this month, and it'll be on the legislature next Tuesday.
Judith.
Thanks, Terry. I hear you say that we don't have to move forward if we get the grant, but it's better to make the call now rather than later.
Yeah, it's not a good look if you ask for money from the state and they give it to you and then you say, no, thank you.
Right, and so I'm wondering what information we could get before the legislature meeting that would help people make a responsible decision. One thing I'm imagining is just a comparison of the two paths. You know, if we build this, what is our cost in terms of equipment, maintenance, and energy over the next 5, 10, 15 years versus if we do go with the geothermal, what is that same cost? Just so we have a sense of, because it costs this amount to build it, but if we don't build it, we'll still have costs related to replacing equipment and maintaining equipment that are currently being used in those buildings. And so it'd be nice to be able to see that comparison so that we can think about the finances more clearly.
Yeah, Arel's not here right now. I don't know that. I don't want to put Norma on the spot for this, but I do know that in our 20-year capital plan, there are replacements for the HVAC equipments in all of these buildings that we're talking about. And a lot of what we're discussing in this grant would supersede that, so that work would no longer have to be done. We are pegging the cost at about $5.3 million, hoping for $2 million from the state through this grant. We're also looking at potentially getting the clean energy tax credits, since they're still available for geothermal. The way we're parsing it in the grant itself is saying that it's not a guarantee because policy can change. So we're not saying to the state, hey, we're planning on getting $2 million from the federal government for this, but if it does exist, it should cover theoretically 30 to 40% of the cost of the system. And then there's also the utility incentives as well, but those change year to year. And so since this project probably wouldn't get started until 28 maybe, it's hard to identify exactly how much would come from those as well. And then there's always some of the funding that we still have in the Green Facilities Capital Fund that could go to this as well. So I don't know if you want to add anything on top of that, Norma.
You explained everything I wanted to make sure, yes, that everyone knew what we were making a decision to actually move forward with a district geothermal. And basically, when we make this decision, we're kind of committing to doing that. I would say, I can pull together the numbers. I think Arel gave those to me before he left for his time off, and provide you with what is currently in the capital program. There is a little bit, I think it's a little over $1 million in the green facilities account right now that has not been spent. It was reimbursements or not reimbursements, they were really
There was the tax credits that we got for doing the geothermal at the Boswick Road.
They have maintained in that account until we've made some further decisions about what we're going to do with this project. There's a little bit there as well, but this is at least a $2 million commitment by passing this resolution.
Right. I mean, I know there's a lot of uncertainties. It just feels like when we only see the big number, we're kind of treating the other one as zero. And I know it's not a zero, it's something substantial. So it'd be helpful to have some guesstimate about that.
Randy.
What is the current budget for the geothermal for the center government building?
It's around $2 million.
$2 million. And the estimates we're getting are still falling in line with that, you think?
As far as I know, Arel would be better positioned.
Yeah, we really haven't received all real estimates yet. These are
okay. No, I'm excited about where it's going. I know it's been a long process for you. And so the money so you need us to say, hey, we're going to spend $2 million. When you do your application, say we're committing $2 million to this project, but for the whole project, for $5 million for all the buildings. Right? And so and that's over and above the $2 million for the center government building, or inclusive?
Yeah, so the $2 million is exclusive. So it's $2 million for the phase one, the center of government project, the piece of this that's in the center of government project, and then it's an additional 5.3 essentially for phase two, which would be extending it to these 3 buildings.
So we're saying that we need to commit an additional $2 million for this phase 2 project.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so then we're looking for, we're saying that the county will put $2 million forward on the top of the $2 million for the center of government building. and then hopefully get 3 million plus for the rest of the funding is the goal?
Well, so I'll say the 2 million that's in this in phase one is inclusive in that center of government cost that's been authorized by the legislature. So it's part of that, what is it, $50 million, I think, that you guys authorized to that. So it would be saying that if this project, if phase two were to move forward, the state would be putting in $2 million and Tompkins County would be meeting it with at least $2 million of its own funding. Right now, the total amount of that we assume is going to be necessary for the project is 5.3 million. So if we get $2 million from the state, we're on the hook for the 3.3 unless we can find ways to bridge that gap.
That's for phase two.
That's for phase two, correct, yeah.
Okay.
Which may include some funds that.
Which may include some funds, yeah, like we can always go after other grants. You know, this was, the reason we're going after this is because we identified it as a potential opportunity and we brought it to county administration and he said, yes, go after funding if you can.
Okay, is the plan now for phase one of this to build it so that it can be expanded?
Yeah, so the way it's being done right now is that even if you were to decide not to move forward with this right now, we could do phase one that would be building the open loop system, putting the equipment in the old jail. It would provide service to the center of government building, and that at some point in the future, it could then go to be expanded to service these other buildings in the future.
Okay, so the 2 million, I'm sorry, all the questions, but
no,
so the 2 million for the phase one,
yeah.
Are there any grants available or any tax benefits for that?
There is the tax incentive that would go towards that as well. It gets a little bit difficult with sequencing. So if we were to do phase one and get the tax credit for that, it would, and then we did phase two 5 years from now, it would be difficult to then get the tax credit for phase two. It's much easier to get the entire project, the $7.3 million, and get the tax credit for that if you were to do it in a timely fashion. I wouldn't say it has to be all done at once, but you couldn't have much of a gap between those projects, which is why we're trying to arrange for funding right now so we can make that somewhat consecutive.
Okay. And if this relates to Judith's question, I agree with that. And I know that there's replacement plans for this building, there's replacement for the courthouse and for that one. So those are all going to cost something.
Yes.
So it'd be nice to see the picture of that so that we can understand the true cost that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Judith.
One last question. I think it's something that's been I've been wondering about this whole time, which is why does it cost so much to expand? Like if we're already putting in $2 million to build the first system, shouldn't there be like reductions in expansion since we already have the baseline system? Why is it so expensive? Is it because it's 3 separate buildings? I mean, I don't quite understand.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I will say that these are design estimates, and so part of when you're doing these design estimates and you're in these earlier stages of design, there's a lot of contingencies that are built into it. And so I'm personally hopeful that the price doesn't end up being $5.3 million and it ends up being less, but that they're trying to protect themselves in case we see things like inflation. I mean, part of what's driving a lot of these costs, to be entirely honest, is the high cost of steel and piping right now. And so if you think about it, the central system will be in the old jail. There will have to be piping to get over to this building. There will have to be piping to get over to the main courthouse building. And so that adds up a lot of cost. You end up needing new pumps. You end up needing new heat exchangers, and then you need to replace some of the terminal equipment. And so what are the VAV boxes that exist at the main courthouse are at their end of life. They're included as an alternate in the proposal that we've looked at for design. And talking with Arel, it wouldn't make sense to design the system and put it in and use those old VAV boxes only to then replace them a year or two down the road. And so that costs, it's roughly $800,000 of the cost of the project. Maybe it's like $740,000. That's included in this as well. And so, to Randy's point and your point earlier, it is including some costs of things that would have to be done anyways. And I think that that's why it's expanding the costs. It's not just throw in another heat exchanger and connect it to the existing system. It's replacing some of the existing system as well. That's just at end of life.
And would there be any reason to consider a slightly smaller system that serves 2 out of the 3 buildings for a total of about $4 million instead of all 3 for 5.3. Because at $4 million, we get the $2 million grant, and we have our $2 million matching.
Yeah, I mean, the way the systems are intertwined, what would make the most sense is if you wanted to parse that, and we did discuss this at a different stage, was having a phase 2 and then a phase 3, with phase 2 being this building and the old jail, because those HVAC systems are pretty interconnected, and then looking at the main courthouse at a separate time. The reason we're moving the direction that we're moving has to do with that tax credit piece, is that if we were to do that, it then becomes increasingly more difficult to then take advantage of that tax credit, because the tax credit itself is for installing a geothermal system and the associated equipment. Once they consider that project complete, additions to that, just saying, oh, we're hooking up more to the geothermal system, don't qualify. It has to be associated with that initial act of installing a geothermal system.
This is my very last question. If the tax credit doesn't come through, because it seems like there's a possibility of that, could we at that point rescope to exclude the courthouse?
Yeah.
And still get the grant money?
Yeah. I mean, certainly that would be a possibility down the line.
Randy.
This is my last question. So we're pulling water down from about 250 feet. Do we have to get any type of permits from DEC or anything?
Yeah, so that's been a recent discussion. So we will have to pull some permits from DEC for, oh gosh, I was just looking at this the other day. There's 2 specific permits that we're going to have to look at getting. One is for taking water out, essentially, and then the other one is for injecting it back into the ground. So we're in the early stages of reaching out to DEC to figure out what that permitting process would be. The good news in talking with our consultants, because we're doing very limited treatment of the water, the only thing that we've found in the water test so far that is an issue is that it's high in iron content. And so for people that are on a well, you know how the treatment goes with that. You know, you add some salt to it essentially, or you can do some ozone treatment. Essentially, that's what we'll end up having to do so that it doesn't corrode the material, and then it'll be injected back into the underground reservoir itself, the aquifer underneath there. So we're expecting that it won't be a major issue, but it's something that'll have to be done.
Yeah. Hi, Katie.
Hi. I just wanted to add that part of this permit analysis is that our staff is working on refreshing the seeker review for this entire center of government project. So we're working on, now that we have an actual design, filling in all the blanks and doing a refresh of that. So we're shooting to get that over to the attorney's office in the next maybe 3 weeks, a draft of that, just to make you all aware.
Thank you. Norma.
I just wanted to also add, so we're clear, I pulled up the worksheet that I received from Arel for the 20-year capital plan. And these units would probably be somewhere around $800,000 for repair and replace for those buildings. Total.
Dan.
Yeah, not so much for the resolution here, but I'm just thinking of failover, right? I mean, we're putting a lot of eggs in this basket here. If something were to happen to one of the wells, I mean, are we dual boring? So we've got 2 ups and 2 downs. Are we do multiple pumps? Are we doing, what are we doing?
So the fail-safe, the backup that we're planning is we are going to keep the existing boilers in place, and they will be plumbed in such a way that if the well were to go down, the boiler and chillers would be able to take up the load that would be necessary until that could be fixed. And so initially we thought about just ripping out all of the old systems, but instead, and this adds a little bit of cost, we're designing it in a way so that the water that would be heated by a boiler would go through the heat exchanger and then be sent into the system and be able to go to all the various buildings.
Aren't we still dealing with end of life on old equipment then?
Yeah, but the end of life on some of these, like, so for instance, some of the boilers that are at the main courthouse are only 4 or 5 years old. So in that case, you're nowhere near end of life.
Yeah. And in this case, they wouldn't have the hours run either.
Exactly, yeah. And so, what some of the end-of-life equipment is that terminal equipment. It's where the heated or cooled water is eventually ending up and what's having to be then distributed into the actual occupied space. The boilers that are in the old jail, they are approaching end of life. The hope is that if you're not using them as a primary system, you're not having that constant runtime on them, that you can extend that life a little bit longer. And then, if they do need to be replaced, ultimately they might have to be replaced, but probably not as soon as they would have been otherwise.
Okay, I just wanted to understand the thought process of your backup.
Yeah, no, it's definitely something that's been top of our mind, because it is a system that, as you said, it's going to be responsible for a lot. It's going to be responsible for these 3 buildings, for the center of government. It's certainly you want to have some level of redundancy in place.
Which is why my first sentence was, are we planning on 2 bores in each location, 2 up and 2 down?
Yeah, and this was to get around the expense of doing that, because it would just be so much more expensive to go that route. That was why the decision to keep the fossil fuel system in place. And then there is redundancy built into the geothermal system itself, right? So instead of having heat exchangers that can meet 100% of the load, there's heat exchangers that can meet 150% of the load, and there's 3 of them. So if one of them goes down, you still have 2 of them. And so,
and you've got multiple pumps to do that too.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I just want to make this point, because Arel's not here. When people ask, why is it so expensive to do these projects for government? Yes, there's the piece where we have to pay prevailing wage, and that ends up being more expensive than a commercial system. But we also are trying to meet levels of redundancy and resiliency that a lot of commercial businesses don't potentially reach, right? They can go down for a day or 2 while they're waiting for their heating system to be replaced. County government can't do that. And so we end up having to spend a lot of money on additional equipment to build in that resiliency and redundancy.
Thank you.
Further questions? So authorization to submit an application to the DEC for potential $2 million funding, and there are still exit ramps which we would not want to use, but potentially could if in the scope of the larger projects it became problematic. Further discussion?
What's the likelihood of getting this approved?
It's a great question. I'm hopeful.
Okay, thank you.
Well, I know it's been a desire of the previous legislature and this legislature to continue to move toward geothermal, and the district concept has been there right along, and it is an opportunity, but an expensive one.
Yeah.
All in favor? Are there any opposed?
Thank you.
Will you be with us Tuesday evening to?
Yeah, I guess, for some of the information that Judith wanted, I guess we can work on getting a memo together to send out ahead of time, but I'll be there available for questions if you want.
You also provided a presentation, was it the last?
At the last F&I, yeah.
Given the size of the request, that it's bound to have some questions from the other legislators.
I can be there.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Terry. Katie, thank you for the update. Move on to the airport. Roxanne, good morning.
Good morning.
Do you want to give a report first, or go ahead to the resolution that we have? Why don't we put the resolution on? Authorization, award of bid, receipt of, and anticipated receipt of, and acceptance of Federal Aviation Administration and New York State Department of Transportation grants for SRE building construction, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID number 14205. Is there a motion? Judith, second by Dan. If you'd like to, yeah.
Absolutely. So we have received 1 grant already. It's the IIJA, the Infrastructure Investment Jobs Act. We've received that grant offer already. We anticipate receiving the second grant end of August, beginning of September. I put both grant offers in here because it is such a quick turnaround time usually for the later grants we would get from the FAA. So this would complete the full phase 2 of the ARF SRE project. It's the snow removal equipment building portion. Phase 1 has been awarded. That was from a grant from last year. That's in the process and underway. So this would be phase 2 of a 5-phase project. And this would cover, the cost of the full phase 2. And we do anticipate receiving that grant. The bids came in, as you'll notice. They're all listed in there. And after reviewing them, they actually really did come in lower than our engineer's estimate even. So Norell was actually really impressed, and it has a positive outlook. He kept asking, and so that gave him positive feeling for the Center of Government building. So hopefully that's a good sign there.
So roughly a $10 million project, and the contribution from your PFC account is at 68,000 of that.
Plus the 173, so that'll be the two added together for so the grants are listed separately. If you see under the grants funding, line 40, I think it's like 2, I added it together.
2.5 and 6.5.
241 for both of them.
Randy?
Just for history purposes, so the total project cost, if I remember correctly, was like $22 million or something like that.
That's what we're looking at, yeah.
And the thought process was that we were hoping to get grants to cover all of that.
In which we will from the federal government. They'll cover their 90 or 95%, just depending on the year, and 2.5% from the state, and then 2.5% would be from PFCs, or if it's non-AIP eligible, we could work it into the airport budget.
Okay, so I just wanted to make you guys aware of this, so that most of this is being funded.
Yeah, so this isn't something that comes from the local tax dollars.
Right, and so the total, this building, when completed, would be 46,000 square feet?
Yes.
An acre?
So it'll house all the fire equipment, all the snow removal equipment, our office building. It'll have a EOC, Emergency Operations Center. We've worked with the Department of Emergency Response and got a grant for that as well. So we've really worked hard and had great collaboration with other county departments, which has been helpful to bring this to fruition.
Is this going to open up any space that you currently have?
It has, and we've had some talks, and hopefully in the next couple of months we can bring that to the committee as well on what the plans are. We're still in the works with that, but hopefully we can put that to good use as well, our building. It's going to need some work. Obviously ours, if you've gone to any of our meetings in the conference room and it's raining, we have buckets sitting around, but we're working.
And these are all reimbursement grants?
Correct. And thankfully, recently things have been reimbursed, sometimes even before invoices get paid. I mean, that's how quick the system, knock on wood, has been. State's a little bit slower, the 2.5% from the state, but the 90 or 95% from the FAA, they've been really good. And CNS has been great. They get the reimbursements done quickly.
Are you saying that the FAA is doing a better job under the Trump administration than in the prior one? I just had to put that out there. So never mind, don't answer that.
They've been coming back quickly. How's that for
great. That's just
good answer.
Interesting. I didn't expect that at all. So all right, and then, so the customs facility is still empty?
Correct.
And so that would be part of your whole discussion on the space?
Yes.
Great. All right, thank you.
More to come.
So basically everything that's in the CFR building in the expanded area opens up when this moves?
Yes.
And you've got probably, I don't know, 20,000 square feet in that facility?
I think it's about 23,000 square feet of a mismatch of, building additions as, requirements have changed.
It's been added on to
You used to
times.
Be housed there with us, Lee. So.
Oh, yeah, I helped work on that project, yeah. In another lifetime.
In another lifetime for us.
Dan, and then Judith.
Yeah, I'm probably out of the know here, but this is for construction of a snow removal building, right? Equipment building?
Correct.
That's one of the grants, yeah.
And it's going to replace a combined snow removal and crash fire rescue building. Where does the crash fire rescue equipment go? Or, maybe I'm out of loop, has it already been done already?
That's in it with it as well.
So that will be phase 3
Okay.
of the project. So we'll
the
remain
CFR
in the
stuff is going to
building.
stay in here until phase 3?
Correct.
Got it.
Correct. We may be eventually be able to move something over as phase 4 and 5 are constructing, but right now we're going to
Okay.
just remain status quo.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep.
Judith?
First, I want to say thank you for being so vigilant and going out and sourcing grants. I mean, it makes such a huge difference when these large amounts of money can be covered by other sources that aren't local dollars. And so I think very appreciative. My second question is, will the existing airport geothermal system be cooling this new space, or is it not connected?
So that's going to be in part, they're going to be a new geothermal because it's of where it's located. So there's going to be new wells and everything. And that's part of phase 1, I believe, that's happening now, is getting that all ready. So.
And that is also covered by these grants. Fabulous. I'm really looking forward to hearing about the usage of space, so, in the coming months. And I'm interested in, I don't think you have any, I just wanted to point this out. If Arel is seeing these costs come in lower than what he was anticipating, I think that bodes well for some of our other construction projects. So I'm hopeful that that's a sign of something that will impact other projects.
Yeah, we were very pleased. We were hopeful that the FAA could squeak out money and allow us to be able to do phase 3, because we did do phase 2 and 3. We thought, just put it all out as one. Unfortunately, unless some miracle happens, they won't send a grant, but that also could be a possibility. I could really, if it does happen, something, I could be coming at the end of August saying they can do phase 3. Here's a grant that we need to push through, a resolution. But right now it looks like phase 2 should be a no problem.
Dan?
A technical question. The first resolved here, this is packet page 33, lines 10, 11, 12, and 13. I read that as a very jumbled English wording. It's not unclear, though. I think the intent is clear and obvious. Do we care about cleaning this up?
It's very tricky to try to do it because we got a grant and we're anticipating getting a grant. And
that's okay.
Okay.
That's okay. I'm just asking the committee, the 5 of us here.
Gotcha.
Because it's clear and obvious to me, let it roll as far as I'm concerned, but the language is kind of.
I think it's just to get it done resolution,
Let's
where
not-
if it
let's
does
not
what it needs
haggle
to
over
do,
it.
we can just let it go.
I came down on not haggling over it because it was clear.
Appreciate it, though.
Thanks. Just to counter Randy here a little bit, I can remember when Senator Schumer would take over our offices on his trips through Ithaca. Have you reserved a place for him when he comes in?
he can come in my office anytime.
Oh,
Sure, why not? I mean, that's what, he used to sit in my office all the time, and yeah.
well, maybe he can find some more.
That's what I'm hoping. You can use my office if you send me more money. No, I don't know.
Any further questions? Shall we vote? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Thank you, Roxanne. And yes, I missed that second number by virtue of the fact that it had carried over to the next page.
Yeah. Just a couple of quick little updates. Employments, I have the numbers for January through May, up 2.5%. United, I think I reported on this before, but as a definitive, they've added the third flight back now from August 11th through November 30th. Still working, it looks positive. They can continue that on through. Airport Day and Preparedness Expo, I do have flyers. If anybody would like any sent to them to distribute or any information. And it looks like the Whiskey 7, the large aircraft that was there last year, will be returning again this year, thanks to Teganic Aviation. They're sponsoring them. Red Cross Blood Drive, the Runway 5K. A lot happens. We have pancake breakfast, but it's a really great community event. Saturday, September 19th. So if you can come up for that, that would be great. Giving a shout out to my operations staff today. They started the Part 139 inspection last night. You've heard me talk about that many years. We used to, have quite a few violations and discrepancies. We had 3 years with 0. Last year we had one minor one. They do a rigorous inspection every year that tests everything on the safety standards at the airport. So that's what Josh has been working on with the crew.
Third flight to where?
DC. So
DC.
So right now it was part of the grant that we had gotten, and the grant ends, the period ends at the end of this month. But United has added it back in without any additional, need for a revenue guarantee or any part of a grant. So that says a positive statement that they like the airport and it's doing well for them.
Good news.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You're
Any
welcome.
questions for Roxanne? Well, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll move on to recycling and materials management. Hi, Leo. We've got 2 resolutions and information item for capital payment summary. Why don't we take the resolutions, and then if Leo's got anything he wants to brief us on, we can do that. First one is award of bid 2026 closed landfill leachate systems improvements, recycling and materials management department, ID number 14217. Do we have a motion? Judith, second by Dan. Anything to this that you want to mention in the award of the bid?
No, excuse me, this was an interesting one. If you remember, this was put out to bid. We received no bids onto it. So we put it back out on the street and allowed partial bids. So we did get bids for some of the tasks, not all of them. So we'll be looking at some alternative ways to complete the project. It is a 3-year project. So we're looking at some ways to get a couple of the tasks done that need to be done that weren't bid, but I will say we have some plans for it. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into those plans, but the bid overall for the task that we did get was over engineering estimates. But we are also managing a couple of tasks where we're going to elect to, instead of, for instance, electrical supply at Caswell, I think we budgeted $60,000. We're not going to do that. The remote operating system, monitoring system will be battery powered. So we'll save $60,000 there. So as an example of trying to balance things.
Yeah, that technology for the battery communications changed so much.
It has.
I mean, it's really improved a lot.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. That combined with cellular, where it'll send that data to us, right at our desk, versus having to go out there and take readings and whatnot. So
That's great.
Yep.
The funding is covered through anticipated expenditures.
This project was bonded or banded for, yeah.
Questions?
Yeah,
Dan?
I was going to ask about money there. The budget was $133,500.
For the tasks that were bid.
Okay, but the proposal was $265 plus a 25 contingents. That's significantly over budget.
For those tasks, yes.
Where is the additional money coming from? Because the resolution says that the funds were available, but they've only got 133 available.
No, we have, I believe, 350,000 roughly was budgeted for, was bonded or banded.
Okay.
For the project. Again, it's a 3-year project.
I see, so this 133 is just 1/3 of that.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes. Yep.
Further questions? Shall we vote? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Resolution, capital project award of bid. Tompkins County Recycling Center Phase 2, Recycling and Materials Management Department, ID number 14216. Is there a motion? Judith, second by John. Leo, anything you want to highlight here?
Well, this is the easier one. Replacing the vestibule and gutter system in front of the facility. We've got some water issues we're dealing with. And this one kind of flipped a little bit, so the capital budget on this was $287. The bid we received was $190,900. So I was glad to see that.
Randy.
So is this replacing the whole vestibule, or is that the plan? Or?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. If you can picture the vestibule, it's a glass housing vestibule. Yeah.
So the materials it will...
I'm sorry, not the whole. The roof is staying, so the roof remains. Yes, yeah, I'm sorry.
This will award the bid to Welliver and McGuire. Okay. And again, funding set aside in where in your...
Do you know, I don't know if we banded or bonded for that because of the dollar amount.
I don't think it's banned.
No.
I don't think it was.
No.
But it'll leave you a balance somewhere.
It'll probably come out.
Sorry, come out of what?
I'm sorry. Yeah, it will likely come from the fund balance. Remember, they are an enterprise fund, so there is a separate fund balance. So.
Randy?
Yeah, well, so when we bond something for recycling material management, it comes out of your budget, right?
Yes.
So it doesn't come out of the whole budget.
Yeah.
Is this part of this bid for Welliver McGuire to recycle the glass, or do they take all the product away, or how does that work? Is the glass even recyclable?
Not that type of glass wouldn't be, no. But whenever we put an RFP out on the street, we usually have language in there to recycle or reuse anything that can be reused. So we'll have a pre-construction meeting with Welliver, and there could be some light fixtures that will change in that vestibule, and those would most likely be set aside and sent to reuse. Yeah.
Thank you.
County facilities also often goes through, prior to a project like that, to claim some things that they might be able to use in other buildings. We've had projects where that's worked out well too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Any further questions? If not, we'll vote. All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Leo. You've also included for information purposes a capital payment summary report. And I'll ask the committee if they have any questions on those items. Ongoing capital projects. Anything you want to bring us up to date on today?
One thing I do want to mention, I believe I've mentioned in the past that the facility, recycling solid waste facility, effective August 1st, we're going to require that users wear high visibility vests when using the tip floors. So not to be confused with the public drop-off areas, just the main building on the tip floor, just to improve safety. As far as the industry goes, it's industry standard for recycling centers, transfer stations, landfills, processing facilities, for users to wear high-vis vests. There's been close calls, at a lot of these facilities, and not to mention fatalities. So I just wanted to make sure that you were kind of briefed on what we're doing, just in case, there is any concerns that might come your way. We've put a really good plan together. Between now and the end of the year, the contracted operator, the facility, is going to be supplying us with high-vis vests to hand out at no cost. So permit users will get one high-vis vest. After that, we've budgeted for to sell the vest. So we've budgeted in 2027 the revenue and the expense to manage those vests. We've also have a loaner type program. If someone comes in after the first of the year and doesn't want to purchase a vest, we're going to have a loaner program where they can basically borrow a vest, give it back when they're done. We want to make sure we're accommodating anyone that's coming into the facility. Nobody's being turned away.
Thanks, Julio. I made mention under the chair's report that we'd be having a presentation next month from the Finger Lakes reuse, and had just kind of a brief discussion with Diane the other day, and I think the committee will be interested to hear what their role is in relation to your department, and look forward to hearing that next month.
Okay, yeah, very good.
Okay. Anything further for Leo? Thank you.
Thank you.
I left a foothold here for the Ithaca Tompkins County Transportation Council. They didn't have any items submitted this month, but we have seen quite a bit of activity. Norma, are you aware of anything, or Jordan? Okay. So, Nick, come on up if you'd like. Highway Department, we've got, I'm going to do a little reordering here before we go to the resolutions. Presentation on roadway management technologies, life cycle management overview.
Yeah, so this is, this would be the company, I think I've mentioned it here a couple times, about the kind of automated, somewhat AI-based platform to come up with our PCI scores and budgeting scenarios for our roadways. And we have Noah Butler from RMT to give us a quick demonstration of what they have to offer and what their software does, and then we'll do questions and answers after.
Okay, good morning. Welcome, Noah.
Good morning. Pleasure to be with y'all. Yeah, so to formally introduce myself, my name is Noah Butler. I'm the Vice President of Sales for Roadway Management Technologies. And as Nick mentioned, right, what we help agencies do is do payment condition indexing across their road network through a passive data collection. And so really, what do we mean by that, right? We've gone through and we've developed our own proprietary hardware that sits on agency vehicles that goes through and collects data in the background. So we're looking at 4 different data outputs, if you will, to go through and collect data based off of type, frequency, and severity to determine basically the distresses that we're seeing on the road to grade them. The first being is accelerometer data. So we're measuring at 52,000 points per second. And essentially what we're building is a roughness profile or a rideability index from that perspective. It's really good at helping us understand if a road is smooth, if there's cracking taking place, stuff like that. But it's not kind of the full story. So we're also looking at gyroscopic data, so the pitch, roll, and yaw, or the attitude of a vehicle, and we're tracking that over time. So if we construct a road that has a normalized output and we see dips and changes, we can understand that there's base or sub-base changes taking place that we might need to address. The third component's an image-based component, and so there's a lot of image technology out there for roads and AI, right? And what they're looking for is color, tone, and contrast on the pavement itself. So cracking will appear darker across the road surface than a perfectly fresh road. Now, the issue you have with imagery and AI is if we had shadowing taking place, right, a tree limbs casting across the road, that could appear as cracking from an AI perspective, or it's going to appear as shadowing. So the AI will actually have trouble reading the road. So that's why we use a trust but verify system. Whenever we take an image, we then drive over where that image was taken, and we can confirm it from a vibrational database, if that makes sense. And then the fourth component, excuse me, is a radar component. So accelerometers do have diminishing returns under about 15, 20 miles per hour. And so we're shooting radar down towards the pavement as well. What we're measuring is deflection. So if we have a really smooth road, we get a really strong rate of return. But as that road begins to weather and we lose the aggregate or the finite loss early on in the road's life cycle, it begins to create a jagged surface. And so it starts deflecting that radar in different directions. So if we think about cracking, right, we shoot it down into the cracks, it gets lost, and we get a really weak return back to that unit. The unique thing we're doing is we're collecting this data 365 days a year, and it's passive. So the driver of the vehicle doesn't have to do anything. They don't have to turn on our hardware. They don't have to calibrate it. They don't have to offload the data. They just hop in, drive their normal day-to-day routine, and we're collecting it there in the background. And so what's our real goal, right? So the goal of RMT is not to give you PCI conditions every night at midnight, right? What our goal is to do is to plot degradation modeling as it's happening. And so that way we can build better predictive analysis of which roads are deteriorating rapidly, which roads are deteriorating slower than expected. And so we know how to go through and ingest our funding, right, in different budget scenarios to maximize every dollar spent. I know I kind of threw the kitchen sink at you, but before I show you a little bit of product today, is there any initial questions or thoughts?
Question for Nick, I guess. Have you had similar software in place prior to this, or has it more or less been a subjective process you do using personnel and your own vehicles?
Yes, prior to is personnel. We go out once a year. It takes us 2 to 4 weeks depending, and then we use that, put that into pretty much a spreadsheet that was developed by Cornell Local Roads that then will come out with our PCIs. So it's a once a year, it's every late fall, right? Late fall.
And this would be installed in some particular set of vehicles?
A variety of our highway vehicles. I think 15 to 20.
So continually monitoring, sending back in, accruing the data?
Yes, every day.
Judith?
I will have more questions later, but my first questions are, is the equipment powered by being hooked into the vehicle battery? And also, how do you manage data security? How is the data about where all our vehicles are going at what times kept in a safe way?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll kind of answer the first question first, right, is how are the vehicles actually powering the devices? So we sit on the leads on the battery. It's a non-invasive install. So we're basically mounting to the chassis of the vehicle, and then we're sitting on the positive negative terminals. It is a smart system. So essentially it's a shake to wake. So whenever it feels like the car engine turning on, it'll wake itself up. And then whenever the vehicle parks, it looks for a known Wi-Fi source. If it doesn't encounter any, it shuts itself off immediately. If it encounters Wi-Fi, it offloads the data, then shuts itself off. So that's how we're powering them. We haven't had any issues, kind of maybe assuming a question there, right? We haven't had any issues with vehicle battery drains, especially in northern climates. I know that's a big concern. So it's pulling less than 5 milliamps when it's in an off status. So really, really low draw. The other is around security. So from a software security perspective, we do sit on AWS servers here in the United States. So we meet all their rules and regulations to be a vendor right on their server architecture. I do have a security sheet. I don't know everything off the top of my head, but I can send that over as well for y'all to be able to review. And then actually on the hardware itself, all the data is encrypted and anonymized. So we're actually not tracking which vehicle. We're not tracking routes for vehicles. The data is basically just saying, hey, I want to collect data on roads. And then we do all the post-processing once it's uploaded. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, and I have one other question, which is how broadly have your instruments been deployed? How long has your company been working on this? Do you have experience in cold weather climates where we get snow, ice, and leaves on the ground? And what does that mean for the results?
Absolutely. So we've been around for almost 8 years now. So we were founded in Little Rock, Arkansas. To give you perspective, we're operating in 20 states across 75 plus clients. We have clients in Massachusetts, New York, Erie, Pennsylvania is a client of ours, pretty harsh weather there. Wisconsin, Washington, northern Arkansas, Ohio. So we have a lot of experience with rough northern climates, right, with snow. And it's a big data play at the end of the day. So what we're doing is we're looking for normalized output across every segment of road within your network. And then we're looking at the tolerance threshold within that data set. So for instance, if we have 40 trips down Main Street, USA, and then we have an outlier in the data set because we had a huge amount of snowfall overnight, we're going to understand that the road didn't just fail overnight. And also the images will detect that the road went from black to white. And so we're going to basically toss that data or cache that data temporarily until we reach back into a normalized threshold of an acceptable tolerance. So it's basically looking at the trends in deterioration, right, and understanding that, hey, this is too big of a discrepancy. Let's see if we keep encountering it. If we don't, right, then we're going to go back to normalized outputs. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Great question.
Question from John and one from Dan.
Just curious, is this only acquiring data from county roads and bridges or all county or every road in the county?
Yeah, great question. So the hardware is somewhat dumb, which is probably not the best thing to tell y'all. All it knows is I'm a sensor, let me go and collect data. So it is collecting data on every single road that it drives, but we're ingesting the county shapefile, so the GIS shapefile. So we're gonna understand the road attributes, the width, the length, the segmentation, and then we're matching that with the longitude and latitude of that data set. So we're not showing Tompkins County any data that they don't care to see. So if we collect data on DOT routes, right, you're not being charged for that. You're not seeing that unless you wanted to see it. We could obviously share that with you, but we're hyper focused on Tompkins County road.
Dan and then Judith.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate the presentation. I think several of my questions are partly answered already, but I'm just going to go through them quickly here. You get GPS in this, so you know where the vehicle, you know where the data is being collected from, right?
Yes. Yes. So it's we are using a GPS, right, for satellite. It's not one distinction I want to make here is we're not plugging into the OBD2 port of the vehicle. So we're not tracking driver behavior. We're just tracking where the data is being collected.
Right. So it's independent. Okay. All right.
Correct.
No, which is fine. How do you account for speed? Because certainly a couple of things, vibrations. Yeah. A faster vehicle is going to, of course, have some more vibrations. Maybe suspension is a factor, or the type of vehicle it's mounted on is a factor. The different vehicles are going to vibrate differently. Speak to that, please.
It's a phenomenal question. So we're actually installed beneath the suspension system. So we actually sit on the A-frame of the axle. So we're independent of the suspension. But Dan, a really good example of that is what happens if a tire becomes out of balance, right? So what we're doing is what we call a domino algorithm. So to give us a basic example, if we install this on an F-350 and a Cadillac, they're going to have two different ride outputs, right, as you suggest. So let's say the Cadillac has a ride output of a 2 and the F-350 has a ride output of a 4. We're going to normalize the data between the two. So it would basically normalize it out to a 3. Now, the unique thing that's happening is if that F-350 encountered a Volkswagen right on the opposite side of the county with our hardware on it, it's going to normalize those two vehicles as well and then normalize that data output back to that of the Cadillac. And this is not happening on one trip, on one pass. This is happening continuously. So we can actually tell, as an example, if a tire became out of balance, that we had a rhythmic thud with speed, it would understand that that's a outlier, right, in the vibrational data set. And so it's going to normalize that data out. And kind of going to speed, we're looking at the same normalization output. So we're not looking at speed limit necessarily. What we're looking at is the consistent rate of travel per segment of road we're collecting data on. So if we had 40 trips down a road that were all collected within 30 to 35 miles per hour, and then we had a trip that was collected at 50 miles per hour, that's out of our normalized tolerance. So we are going to toss that trip as an unreliable data set. Does that make sense?
Okay, there's a lot going on here. No, you've accounted for that. That's what I was looking for. You're accounting for all of this, and it's more than I'm going to take this meeting to wrap my head around, but yeah, okay.
Yeah, I mean, the straight answer to that is we got it wrong a lot of times to make sure we could get it right. It's kind of funny you asked about normalization. That was the hardest thing for us to figure out, right? Like, how do you get consistent output across vehicles? Because every agency in America doesn't have a standardized fleet, right? And so the fleet's at different ages, different vehicles. So that took us a while to figure out.
So then my next question to Nick here is, which vehicle, well, both of you actually, which vehicles is this going on? Are you choosing this? You're choosing on the vehicles that give you the best results, or is it going on the vehicles with the most time on the roads, or was that a suggestion from the vendor? What are we doing?
I think it'll be a mix of both. We definitely have some that spend a lot more time driving around and checking, the supervisors' vehicles. They're out a lot. They're the ones that are, reaching out to the taxpayers, the calls, the concerns. They're the ones checking the roads in the winter. But then we have multiple other crew trucks, and it's, Noah had said even some dump trucks. A whole variety of the fleet, can get these. But we'll definitely go, based on their recommendations.
Well, just my gut is that I think you're going to get better results off a smaller vehicle, but.
You would think,
yeah,
but, we range from the, smaller pickups and the mail car.
Rather than the big.
To the 10-wheelers and tractor trailers. So we'll
Sign
definitely
truck.
lean on them for
okay.
their suggestions.
Right. And it's honestly not as big of a variance as you would think, since we're taking the suspension out of the equation. It's really how many unique trips do we have down a road to make sure we're getting good normalized data output between the vehicles. So for instance, if we only have a small data sample set, right, and we actually do this as a tolerance threshold whenever we do initial installation, we wait for that normalized tolerance essentially to happen, to take place across the county before we start actually using the system to build projects and stuff like that. It typically takes 4 to 6 weeks.
Did you have a question, Judith?
I did. My question was sort of based on John's question. If these systems are collecting all this data that might be useful to other municipalities in the county, $60,000 is a lot of money to be putting into our budget right now, on top of whatever money we're already spending on software for road maintenance, which is a different question I have. But if we could split that cost up and share data with the city and the towns in a way that serves them, then it might become a much more affordable chunk.
Yeah, so that's something Nick and I have discussed with Ithaca as an example. It's actually something that we're launching elsewhere in the state with Genesee County. So they just came on board as a client, and we're actually working with 10, 11 municipalities right within the network. So that's something we're happy to kind of explore with the county or kind of retroactively do, right? If we get the county on board and then Ithaca came on board, kind of doing a bundling option, Judith. But one of the cool things that we do at RMT is, one thing is all this data is great, right? But what we're ultimately helping Nick and the Public Works team do, right, is also be more judicious with their funding. So if it might make more sense if I share my screen with you and show you some of the software capabilities, because that's really what the county would be utilizing, if that's okay.
Sure, and maybe in that, if there's parts of your software that overlap with things we already do with other software, then maybe that's something that could be highlighted in this discussion, because I certainly don't want to pay twice for the same functionality.
Absolutely. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And then can y'all see my screen all right?
Yes.
Yep, got it.
Awesome. Sorry, I'm trying to orient myself. So this is actually Delray Beach, Florida. So they're actually a municipality on the southeast coast of Florida. Green are our good roads, red are our bad roads, and everything in between. We can see our road list here, so the name of every single road within their agency. The PCI score, our running PCI totals, so what are the deltas? So how is that trend happening over time? So we could see that 7th Street here, right, had a 22-point PCI increase. So that road received a project that extended the health of that road and the life of that road. So we amortized the health of that. And then our asset value. One of the things to note here is this is not a generalized asset value. We're actually ingesting all your material costs, all your attribute tables. So this is a real world cost based for Delray Beach in this scenario. And then we can turn on other different tables. So we could see remaining surface life. So one of the things we're trying to do with our roads, right, is we're essentially trying to amortize the health of them and purchase time. So we could see we have multiple roads here in a 90 PCI condition, but we also have different deterioration rates that are happening, right? So this road that's a 90 is going to last 12 years and 5 months, but this road's going to last 14 years and 4 months. And so we can actually help prioritize our roads that we're selecting for projects based off of the time aspect of that to provide the most return on investment. So let me give you a better example of that. If I came into a road that was lower condition, so this is a D road, we could see the born-on date of this road was in 2005, how that road has been performing over the past 20 years, and when we're projecting that road to be at a failed status. But then we can come into our preservation tab. So we're actually recommending this road for a slurry seal. So we could see in this example, we're going to spend that money and amortize the health of that road by an additional, 3 years by spending $13,000. And one of the really cool things is since we're installing on the fleet of vehicles, this is not a static number. So traditionally speaking, right, we get a survey once a year or every 2 years or 3 years. We're tracking that in real time and we're creating a digital twin model out of that. So we're looking at every single road in Delray Beach that did not receive this treatment, but is a like candidate for that treatment. And we're now doing performance management of that treatment. So if this is performing exceptionally well, we're going to see an increase in return on investment. Or if it's not performing well, we're going to see a decrease in return on investment because it's not a good candidate for the rapid adoption of best practices. And so with that, we have a new 5-year or a multi-year model builder. And so let me kind of show you what that looks like. And any questions as I pull this up?
No.
Awesome. So we have an Alexandria maintenance and rehab budget. They're budgeting $25 million over 5 years. And so we can come in and look at what that actually looks like. So we can change the date ranges if we wanted to. We can do our different budget scenarios. How do we want to distribute that funding over those 5 years? And we can see the decision tree that's made from that. So we could see out of that $25 million budget, $7.5 million of that is going to maintenance. We're going to allocate some to our local roads, our collectors, and our primary arterials. And then the other 70% is going to rehabilitation. So you can build any decision tree matrix to go through and allocate funding. So one thing, we could do for, counties in New York is build allocation for like our CHIPS funding, right? CHIPS funding has to be spent very specifically to help amortize. And I think it's a 10-year program that we need to show that we're helping maintain our roads with that fund. And so we can go through and maybe allocate 10% of our budget or 20% of our budget to CHIPS, right? And we can add that in for, let's say, like a microsurface treatment. And if I hit save changes, it's going to add that to our projects. Oh, and I didn't total 100% here, so pardon me.
Randy's got a question.
Yeah, so my question was how often you'd be getting reporting on this. It looks like click of a button. So is this software going to be accessible to the highway department for them to just go in and review a specific road or get a report on roads that are most marginalized, or so they can pull reports any way they want?
That's exactly right. So that's the unique thing about us. We're software as a service. So we provide all the hardware, we install it, and we maintain it indefinitely. And so this is what the county is getting access to. So Nick and his team will be able to use this to build 5-year budget scenario planning. So if I wanted to come to year 2029 and start working on CHIPS fund allocation, as an example, I can hit new project. It's going to show me how I'm using my decision tree, right, to make sure I'm following the path I want to. And if I hit continue here, let me type in a name for the project. So if I hit continue here, it's going to take me to all the roads that are now a candidate in 2029 for this treatment. So I can go through and build my 5-year plan, my 2-year plan, my 3-year plan, but it's continuously changing with the data we're receiving. So if Tompkins County had a really harsh winter, as an example, and certain roads deteriorated rapidly overnight, we can now reprioritize funding, right, to make sure we're stopping the bleeding there. Or if roads are deteriorating faster than expected, we don't want to throw good money after bad. And so to kind of back out of this to show y'all the type of reporting you can receive from it is if I came back into the main project here and I come to my overview tab, this is actual live dashboards based off of the data we're collecting. So we don't have any projects really built into this account. but we could see how our network is going to depreciate if we don't invest anything further into the county, as an example. So you can actually see a breakdown per year of what treatments we're doing, what projects we're doing, and what is the network gain or the depreciation value that's happening based off of funding we're spending. Pretty cool, right?
So how is training provided to the county to use this software?
Yeah, unlimited training and support. So Tompkins County will receive a dedicated key account manager. So it's going to be one person that they can call on every single time. So they'll be really familiar with that. One of the things we do offer is planning as a service. So we'll actually go through and help y'all build your paving plans, update your paving plans, so on and so forth. All of that's included as well. So we're simply software as a service, and all the support is completely included for that.
Thank you.
Yep. One of the things we're adding as well that Tompkins County would be receiving as well is we're adding automated asset recognition. So in Q3 of this year, we're actually at the flip of a switch. We'll be able to inventory every single sign for the county. So for instance, if we had a inventory live database of all of your signage and somebody were to mow down a stop sign, right, we could actually notify the county that a stop sign was missing. And so you can schedule out a replacement to go out and fix it. Or if it's twisted or a tree limb's grown out in front of it, right, we can send somebody out to go through and cut a tree limb out of the way. And then we're launching that to all right-of-way assets. So striping, curb and gutter, guardrails, so on and so forth.
Judith.
So I guess I had assumed that the cameras that were monitoring the roadway were pointed down at the roadway, but it sounds based on this that you have cameras that are pointed sideways off the vehicles looking at things like stop signs, which makes the security aspect significantly more pressing, because then they could take pictures of people, for instance, or vehicles. Can you address that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll actually share a photo with you, and I think that might give you a better example as well. So this is a photo out of Delray. So we could see that we are still focused on the actual street and right-of-way itself. So we would be capturing anything that would be in the line of sight. We are working on anonymizing that data even further. So blurring out faces, license plates, so on and so forth. That's something that we're looking to have added in. I don't want to give a definitive date, but we're actively doing it because of different relationship that we're pursuing to kind of speak broadly about it.
Okay, and then my other question, this seems like a very comprehensive software. Nick, can you address sort of what parts of it, like what do we currently use for roadway management, and what parts duplicate or are duplicated by this alternative software, and how much do we spend on software currently?
So to start that off, we have the OpenGov, used to be Cartograph, now it's considered OpenGov. That's where we track all of our assets. So we've always kind of, we've take our Cornell local roads free spreadsheet. We take that information, that creates a PCI score. We put the PCI score manually into Cartograph to tell us where that's at. That's kind of that piece. So our scoring right now cost us the time and gas of driving around to have 2 staff for 2 to 4 weeks, depending what's happening, to come up with that score. On the other side, the OpenGov or Cartograph, that tracks all of our assets. So we did speak with another, I don't know if it's county or city, that has both. And we kind of said, how do they interact? What do you do? Because we kind of were thinking that there's some room to interact or mix the two together. They currently do not. They don't mix them. They kind of said to us, well, why would you want to do that? One's one thing and one's the other. But that's not to say that they wouldn't integrate in the future. That's what we were looking for. But we had talked to OpenGov and how often they would integrate, and we haven't really seen a lot of value to pursue that angle yet. OpenGov has a scenario builder that before you were going to have to pay to get. We didn't have that yet. We liked this scenario builder in this software better because it's designed, as you can see, directly for roads. And then OpenGov, the scenario builder's included and it's in there now. So it's one of those things that I think this one, just looking at it and from what Shannon and Luke kind of learned when they went to Chicago to the OpenGov training about, they went through a scenario builder, and they both thought that this one looked a little stronger, just because it was, the OpenGov one was very broad and would capture, you know, more things. This is very detailed to just, you know, roadway signs, very, you know, entailed stuff.
So is the OpenGov cartograph system free, or do we pay for it?
No, we pay for that.
So
It has every sign, every culvert, every bridge, every road, every piece of guide rail. That's like our Bible of what we own. That's 50-something, 50-ish a year.
and does it really make sense to have both? I mean, that's a lot of money, right? Like, we're not in a good budget season, and I'm hesitant to add $60,000 a year for the next 5 years to our budget.
60,000 to 36.
Well, you know, it's 60,000 a year. This year would obviously, depending upon when we make it through and get all our final approvals, that number is a moving target until you start, obviously, depending on the month, once we go through everything. I will say the 60,000 looks like a lot, but when you're making more informed decisions on millions of dollars on county infrastructure, 60,000 is pretty small in my eyes. I mean, we're spending, well, at some points, millions a week on projects, and just the, you know, the idea to be able to stretch that. I will say with our OpenGov, there is years of history in there that, you know, it's very important to keep that with our signs and all of that information. That's where we get all of our information for our chips. That's where we track all of our equipment. That's where we track all of our people. You know, in that system, we can look up and say, you know, where was John Doe 3 months ago?
Okay.
Type it up, okay, John Doe was on such and such a road, and it looks like they were ditching. So that's the difference of the systems. But this system, yes, it seems like a lot, but the more you dive into that and the more years that we face tighter and tighter budgets, this is something that maybe we can stretch our nickel into a dime, or a dime into a quarter. Or when you come to us and say, you know, we really need to cut this capital road fund this year, what will that do to you? Instead of a lot of our stuff being in my head or in Luke's head of where we're going to pave and what we're going to do, that's on there, and we can say, we'll get back to you on that, and then give you a very informed, you know, report. And the other cool thing with this, cool, neat, however you want to look at it, accuracy is it's based upon our bids. So we input our numbers. We know what our, you know, our material and services bid, our monthly asphalt escalators, all that stuff can get put in. So it is very accurate to our area, you know, daily, weekly, monthly, however, you know, it's obviously as good as what you put in, but it's based upon our local numbers.
Let me ask Noah, do you have any more to present?
One of the things too that we've also had a really big success rate here at RMT is also we've talked about grant funding a lot right here in this call today. A lot of our clients have received 400% of the initial investment in RMT in actual grant funding from a state level or a federal level. So as an example, we did 12 grants with our clients completely for free last year, and all 12 were awarded with those grants that actually received up to 400% in funding from what they actually invested in RMT as well. So these are all services included in that 60,000, to be fully clear, right? We're a partner in that regard. So we're helping y'all figure out how to maximize and get most out of CHIPS funding as an example that we can, or any other state, local programs and federal funding as well.
Dan.
No, we recently, the county recently had a big concern about video, which is why Judith's question about video is appropriate. And I'm troubleshooting here. What's the impact of not including your cameras in your data digestion, data quality, cost, timeliness, whatever the impact might be, if we were to disable those cameras, because I fully expect that's going to be a big topic of discussion, what's the impact?
So a lot of the, great question, right? So vibrational data and radar data can get you pretty close, right? Now, with a lot of the functionality that we have coming out that y'all would be grandfathered into as a client is like automated pothole detection. So if a pothole were to form, we could notify you of that pothole and we could get a crew out to go into replacement, or the sign inventory. So you'll have a really good database of, you know, all your assets within the county. What we're going to do is be an active monitoring system of that database, right? So you're losing additional functionality and features that the county would be receiving as a result, and kind of validation. So one of the things that's really important here, right, is, you know, we're taking all this data and we're making it objective versus subjective, right, within the data outputs and the monitoring of that. And we're tracking the trends in deterioration. Photos are a large point in that to go through and validate it from a user perspective, right, as well as from an AI perspective. So if Nick is looking to do road work as one example, and it was in a further part of the county, instead of going through and seeing a photo that's 30 days old, he might have to deploy somebody to go out and drive to validate it. Not the biggest deal in the world, but it's just losing some of the benefits of the system to see real-time data. I would want to know what the concern was with the photos. So a lot of times we get questions of like, if a driver was in an accident, right, is it going to record that from a FOIA perspective? To keep in mind, we are collecting photos every 35 days in increments of 75 feet. So once we have a qualified photo, and what a qualified photo for us is field of view. So that means nothing's in front of the vehicle, so you can actually see the road. It's not going to take another photo for 30 days.
I think
kind of answer.
The question really, Noah, to you is where's this data going to get shared with the cameras being used and building into a database? That's the concern, isn't the taking of the pictures or using them for highway department purposes.
Right. We've got it's the storage, it's the security, it's the sharing, it's the remote access, and frankly, with what we've been through in the last 12 months here, it's public opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm kind of expecting that if we do this, we will ask for these cameras to be shut off. Just a hunch.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to have cameras installed. That would be a county decision, not an RMT decision. Now, once again, I would rather share our security documentation with y'all, so that way we're being very accurate on the procedures and protocols we follow. But we follow a lot of the standard procedures and protocols for any software company. So I just don't want to rattle stuff off. I'd rather get you a concrete list of all the security procedures we follow.
Randy.
I have a technical question. So when you're doing the road surveys with this equipment, I actually like the fact that there are cameras because you can see the side of the roads where quite often a lot of the deterioration happens. In Trumbull's Corners Road would be an example. I was going to talk to you about that. And I see you did some repairs on it. So
saw some of that the other day.
So the pictures do have value, I think, of the roads themselves.
Yeah, Randy,
but my question is, culverts and bridges, how does your data look at those?
It's a good question. So we can go through and we're not going to give you a bridge inspection, right? In order to give you a really solid bridge inspection, you need to be going through a completely different list and standards, right, for engineering guidelines. Because what we're doing is taking images above the bridge, right? As an example, we're not inspecting underneath. There's better technologies, and New York State has a really good guideline for bridge inspections as a whole. And we just wouldn't meet that guideline from a state, to be fully transparent. One of the things we're talking about with Cape Coral, Florida, right, which is a client of ours, is breezeways going over waterways for them. Obviously, they've faced a lot of hurricanes, but it's kind of the road impacts from that and any surface deterioration that they could identify that would want them to go through and do a bridge inspection, right, to make sure that there's no critical failure. So there's tertiary benefits to things like culverts, right, and bridge inspections. We've had clients in in Arkansas that have quite a bit of culverts, and they were receiving a bit of washouts near the culverts. And so they kept seeing these washouts, and we were seeing that trend in the data set happening. So they actually went out and did culvert inspections and realized they were failing, causing the roads to wash out quicker. So we're not doing a direct inspection of those assets. We can help inventory them and identify them, so you can overlay it on that map. So if we keep seeing a same problem near a culvert asset, right, it'll help Nick's team to go through and say, hey, we're wasting money here. Maybe there's something else. Same thing like a leaking water main seeping into the base of the road. It's going to cause that road to deteriorate faster because we're softening the base. And so that will eventually show itself on the surface, allowing your team to get out, make improvements to it before it becomes a more cost prohibitive problem.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Nick?
Yeah, no, I've got a video question. So you had just said that it takes them every so many seconds or with the pictures. So how long, I guess, how many pictures are we taking, how often, or videos, and how long do they last before they're replaced by the next one? The next time
30
we drive?
minutes. Yeah, and we can change that timeline. So if I took a picture on, and we call them Pac-Man points, so I can show you exactly what they look like. If we take a picture at a Pac-Man point and it's qualified, we don't take another image for another 30 days. Now, we could set a threshold within that. So these little blue dots here, we could set a threshold within that. So if they wanted them to be taken, them being Yalva County, if you wanted them being taken every 6 months, as an example, we could go through, get qualified photos, and then tell the cameras not to take another image for 6 months. And so they just won't capture any data. So we can control that on our side as well.
Okay, and I guess on the other side, it just like everybody to know, with the pictures, that counts. You know, if we have a natural disaster, we have a crazy flood, we lose a road. You know, this data will give us very direct, you know, proof of, not necessarily, I mean, where it was, sure, we know where the road is, GPS has all that, but to the condition of the road, where certain things were, you know, it's very helpful in that for FEMA, if we ever did get into that disaster phase. And then
It's actually a requirement for, sorry to interrupt, Nick, it's actually a requirement for FEMA reimbursement dollars that you have images before and after the disaster and a maintenance log of the asset. So you actually have to prove the condition of the road literally before an impact and after an impact and what you've been doing to maintain that road, or they won't reimburse that funding.
So currently, we could do all that, but we would be getting on Google Earth. And that's my other question. If video, you know, I'm not quite sure how often Google Earth comes through their little fancy car, but currently, we still can get some pretty good pictures from Google Earth because we use it frequently. So I guess as a video, I understand people's concerns and maybe there is some tweak that we could do to make people feel more comfortable, but have we talked to the rest of the world about that as well with Google and different things, different strategies and satellite imagery that we all can access whenever we want? So just a thought, but this is a different point that I didn't think of, but it's very valid.
Yeah, and one of the things we're seeing down here in Florida, right, and there's different FEMA representatives in every state, is they're actually denying the Google Earth data because it's one, it's an age thing, but two, it's not first-party data collected by the agencies. So they're actually denying that in some cases.
Dan.
And a really good example of this is a client that's not ours, Bay County, Florida, when Hurricane, I think Michael came in 2019. They actually had a survey done 2 months prior to the storm, and then they had a survey done after cleanup about 2 years later, and they went through 3 years of arbitration because they didn't deem it was recent enough data before and after the storm to give you a perspective.
Okay, thanks. Dan's got a question, then we're going to have to wrap up the presentation and move on to the resolution items.
I'll be very fast because I saw Judith nudge here too. By the way, I completely understand the value. Absolutely. We just need to figure out how we as a county are going to handle this, given our recent flock issue.
Correct.
Understood. Anything further from the overview of the proposed software subscription.
No, I mean, that's, sake of time. I could keep going for another 3 hours, but we can maybe schedule more time if we need to.
Thanks. And Judith?
No, you heard Nick say that the OpenGov system doesn't interact directly with your system. It seems like an obvious thing to have. Why are they, it doesn't really make sense to me to have two systems that both track our road conditions, why don't they interact? Why you're the one in charge of building the software, why haven't you created an integration platform?
That's a phenomenal question, right? So we actually met with y'all's OpenGov representative for Tompkins County, and we discussed what RMT was doing, and we were discussing the OpenGov use case, and the direct answer to it is there's no reason to, right? The main thing you're doing in your OpenGov system is, one, yes, you're storing a lot of your assets and you're managing them there, but it's a lot of work order and asset management for a lot of different resources. And then with the frequency and how we're collecting data in our scenario builders, our pavement management system is designed for the frequency of data that we collect. OpenGov's is not. So OpenGov is designed for like a one-time static survey where you're assuming deterioration curves. Our platform is purposely built to monitor live tracking, and we're using a lot of AI and machine learning. So you essentially just lose the value in all the data and AI and machine learning we're doing on our side that doesn't translate back to OpenGov. Now, that being said, we will integrate if you would like. There's just no intrinsic value for the cost it would be to the county to do that. That being said, whenever we come out with like automated sign recognition, right, there is value in integrating those two systems together. There wouldn't be a reason to do it before that was live, and there would be a purpose to integrate them.
And if the OpenGov system is basing its information on these automated curves, assuming deterioration, does it make sense, in your opinion, to maintain both software systems at the same time?
For pavement management, most likely not. But once again, if you're using it for scheduling things like brush cuts, right, ditch out repairs, mowing, sign replacement, inventorying, that kind of stuff, it would make sense to run them in parallel because we're not going to fulfill every work order aspect for the county. But for your capital planning for pavement, it would make sense to primarily use RMT.
Thank you.
I just got one quick comment with that, and I think Noah, he touched on it. The work order piece is huge, is what we're using OpenGov for, and it is our tracking. And current integrations, we didn't really see any value, and neither did the county or city that we talked to in Florida. But as Noah had just said, with the adding of the recognition of the signs, now that definitely could be some value, because we do track all our signs, but everything that goes into OpenGov, we put in there. So we're going out and looking at saying where the signs are, the condition of the signs. If this technology gets to the point where, and the video isn't a big deal, and it can do the reflectivity of the sign, then that data could be placed in there, and then the two definitely could work together. So I shouldn't say that not, but currently no, but moving forward, absolutely could become different pieces.
And I know we got to wrap up. I just want to kind of preference that with saying we have plans to integrate the two. Our recommendation is for Tompkins County not to want a custom integration because there's no use case today. And so wait for there to be a use case. We will build the native integration, and then the county won't have to spend money to have that custom integration built.
Do we have to pay for the full OpenGov package, or does it come in parts where we can choose to pay for some parts and not others?
There are modules, I know, right?
That's a Norma.
I'm sure that's a Norma question on that one, but
we might have to get back to you.
It's an enterprise license, and depending on the module that you purchased, it's one module, and there's not an a la carte as far as that's concerned. Now, I'm not entirely sure exactly which modules the highway department is using, but if it's all one asset management, which I believe it is, there's not an a la carte solution there.
Thank you.
Okay, Noah, thank you for being with us. I'm going to ask the committee, is there a motion to add the resolution submitted by the highway department Highway Department multi-year contract for pavement monitoring system, Highway Department 2026 budget adjustment, and 2027 target increase, ID number 14212. Moved by Randy, second by Dan. And discussion to the resolution.
I have a question. So Nick, currently, your people are going out and doing the assessments yourselves, right? And that requires time and people. And then you're entering that data in your spreadsheet and those kinds of things. Would that be eliminated?
Yes.
Okay, that was a question.
Dan.
My question was going to be, what's your ROI in this? What's your savings here? Okay, because you're not, I don't think, going to your question, Randy, I don't think you're talking trimming people. You can reallocate their time. You're not spending the gas, other things that are there. But what's your ROI?
I don't think we've really broke that down completely. I mean, we know it's two of our engineering staff, which are our higher paid staff, you know, driving around for, when I say 2 to 4, that's kind of depends on, it's hard to dedicate them every day to just do it, get it done, because other things come up. So it does bounce around, but if you could stick with it every single day, it would take about 2 weeks. So we'd be, 80 hours a piece, times that, times the gas, or electric, because we do have the lightning on that side. So I think that the bigger savings in the whole matter would be the cost savings and of what we can do sitting right at our desk, budgeting, planning, and doing that. I think that's a lot bigger than the time we save on the cruising. As they add, I mean, it sounds great with the sign thing, and we did see a demo on the sign recognition piece that they're talking about going live with. That, I think, has even more. We know when a stop sign's down. We get called from the state police, sheriffs, DOT. Those are the important ones. But like he just said about the tree limb hanging in front, we know about that when we see it or we get a call. That just opens up a whole nother piece where all of a sudden we get a report that, hey, this sign, the visibility of the sign is awful, or this guide rail is leveled because there was an accident that we didn't hear about. So, those pieces I think are that savings. It's really hard to put a number on that.
You actually surprised me just a little bit, because I thought you were going to go along the lines of quality of data and therefore optimizing our assets over the course of several years by improving our maintenance.
Well, there's definitely a lot to it, yes. I think just the thing that Kelly and I were at where were we? That was the highway superintendent's annual. No, that was the winter convention. Anyways, Noah had put on an hour-long seminar, and I'm just sitting there going, I'm writing down some notes, and finally I went up and talked to him after. I said, this seems too good to believe. It just, with what the pavement, it's in my head, really, is where we should, sure, it's easy to say where you should pave next year. You know your complaints, you know your potholes, you know it fell apart. But the idea of this, having that technology at your desk and at your fingertips to be able to answer, some of the other questions of budgets and what will happen if we do this and what happens if we do that. And the idea of being able to, what if we skip that this year? The price of oil's up. We did. We skipped some micro paving this year because it's a preventative maintenance process and I don't want to pay what it's gone up to. So I said, I will be okay. But now I could have data to back that up and say, I skipped this because it up this much. It pushed my curve this far, but next year I can do it at, and move my curve back. So it's good stuff. I feel that, everyone we talked to so far, we have not found. And on the security piece, just quickly, we did involve IT and Lauren because we have to have a Wi-Fi that this helps into. This information when the vehicles come back in the barn, and Lauren kind of went through the technology security side of things. He was good with all of that.
Judith.
I love the idea of having data. I can see a huge amount of value. And I know it costs less to maintain roads when you get at them at the right moment in time. So I think there probably is a lot of savings to be had. I'm a little confused by the resolution because in the memo that comes with it, it says the software costs $60,000, but that number is not mentioned anywhere in this resolution. And I think that's a little misleading because it's assumed that we're going to have the savings from increased permit fees, but like that, the money does not trade, right? The money from increased permit fees is money that goes into the county budget. And the money that goes out to pay for software is money that comes out of the county budget. And I don't really want to see them sort of put up against each other and subtracted in the background. I think that sort of underrepresents the cost of the software. I'm also wondering, is it normal to do this without an RFP, or would you normally, this feels like it's kind of driven by a vendor showing something really cool that could be beneficial. But I would have thought that usually you sort of decide what the county wants and put it out for a bid, and then different organizations bid on it.
Yes, you can, and this basis of this is a piggyback bid from another county within New York State. So it was put out to bid.
Okay.
So there's a competitive bidding process on this. I think Kevin and I kind of went over some scenarios on this, and Kevin came up with the idea of how to pay for this. And this was kind of our way to offset what we felt was raising a target up. You know, raising our target $60,000 is kind of a big deal. And we recognized, you know, and kind of with administration and this year's budget, it's, you know, what do you have for revenues? Where can you offset things so the target doesn't have to grow? And that's where we recognize on the permits, we do have some there. So our feeling there was to adjust and not do a 60,000 hit to the target.
I can see how that seemed like the right thing to do, and I appreciate that.
That's the angle.
But I would like to see the cost of the software listed in the resolution that we vote on. I don't think I think that's important.
Okay, and really,
We can adjust that, right?
we could adjust that, and, you know, maybe.
Well, I think you can add a resolve that says that the overall software cost is going to be $60,000 a year, and that the department has budgeted additional revenues based on your permit fees that will be
Would you like to make that a motion?
An amendment?
I could amend it, yeah. Why don't we do that?
All right, you're going to have to do that one more time for me. I was not typing.
Resolved, or whereas software subscription cost for this roadway management technologies is $60,000 annually, partially offset by a budgeted 2027 budgeted increase in the permit fees revenue line.
Is there a seconder?
I will, but I think it should be a resolve, not a whereas, because we're allocating money.
I think it's a whereas, it's background.
Whereas.
I think you can, if you don't mind, I think you can put in the resolved, I'm sorry. At the last resolve for the fiscal target of the highway for 2027 will increase by blah, 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 and beyond hereby increased by 36,000 appropriation per, or change that to say that the target will increase by, I said blah, 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 I don't have the amount in front of me, 60,000.
The target's supposed to increase by 36,000, right?
Correct.
You could write increase by 36,000, which is the difference between the cost of the subscription fee and the increased budgeted permit fees.
Is that friendly to
That would be
the
the 24th.
over of the resolution from the seconder?
Are you the seconder?
Oh, so are we adjusting line 43 and 44 as you
43 and
described?
44.
I'm good with that.
I might have been the seconder. I'm okay.
Everybody's okay.
Gordon, you got that?
Yes. I also have a listener who will help me, and I'm sure Norma will be available.
Thank you.
Can I have a vote on the amendment?
Yeah, well, there's a friendly amendment.
Okay, that's fine.
Further discussion to the resolution?
One more. So as perspective, since we're the only two people that have been on this facilities committee before, currently I think we allocate $2.4 million a year for paving. Is that correct? So through the discussions over the years, we've tried to ask, well, is that enough or is it too much or whatever? And so this is kind of a solution to that, to say, would you agree that, maybe it's 2.2 million once we get to this point? So I'm hoping that, but they're using their own people to analyze this. This is much more technical and more accurate in my mind. So I think this is a good solution.
Anything further? Shall we vote? All in favor of the resolution as amended? Any opposed? Motion carries. I will consult with you, Nick, before Tuesday to see if you've got answers to the questions that may be raised, because if we need to pull that resolution and move it to the first meeting in August, we've probably got that flexibility. But we want to be prepared with the points that were raised here today.
Nick, what's install time? I mean, once we sign a contract, a month?
They were talking like a month before, and then once you're installed, it's really about a month before you start getting really good data.
Okay, and they come out and do that, or we do the install?
They do all the install.
Okay, thank you. Resolution under 11B, authorization to enter into a multi-year intermunicipal shared services agreement with Schuyler County for snow and ice removal, ID number 14198. Do we have a motion? Dan, second Judith. Nick, any points here?
Yeah, so this one is free. That's kind of how it's set up. We entered into a one-year agreement last year with Schuyler County. We needed to trade some roads, and they have wanted to trade a few roads for the last 2 or 3 years, and it really didn't look all that appeasing to us, and then it did. So this last year's, we worked with Jesse. That was the one way we could do it, was just making it a 1 year. A multi-year had to come in front of, guys in the ledge. So we said, let's do it as one. Let's see how it works. It's worked out well. It kind of emphasizes the snow and ice, but it's everything. Really, it's a shared services, same as we have with our towns. We have gone over and helped them out. We just went over the other day and milled out a spot with our skid steer. They have come over and helped us out with a little bit of DOT welding. They've helped us out. They did some roadside mowing for us for one of our roads that's out, and they were closer. So I feel this is a really good thing, and I'd like to continue with more of our neighbors. The tighter things get, the easier it is to do more things when you have partners.
Well, essentially, it's the shared western border of the county, the entire side, with a little nick out of there for Chemung County.
Yes, so and for the plowing, they plow a section for us in Ulysses, and we plow a section it'd be south of Newfield. It's the south end of Van Kirk Road. We take that right down to the state route. Draw a blank on the state route, but it's like within a half a mile the same length of each other. So and we had 0 complaints from their work, and they didn't have any from ours, so it worked well last winter.
To the resolution, shared services agreement with Schuyler County. Any further questions? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. And resolution C, budget adjustment for the Highway Department, increase 2026-2027 consolidated highway improvement program, CHIPS funding, ID number 14156. Moved by Randy, second by Dan. This is a adjustment, increased CHIPS funding of $226,840.88, moved to highway materials. Anything you want to highlight on that?
Well, I wish I could say we were going to pave another mile of road with it, but This year, it's probably going to be eaten up in asphalt inflation. Not right to the penny, but it's just the way the projects are looking. July's index went up only 3, so it still didn't plateau, didn't go down, went up, only 3 points, which is very small. That's pennies, actually.
Well, it's some relief to what you pointed out to us, highlighted earlier in the spring when you were looking at materials costs.
With the CHIPS funding, you have to spend it to get it back. So this raises the material line, helps us, on that side of things, and gives us the option, the opportunity to get it all back. And this was, last year we did the same thing. Last year's was a little different because it was 2 years worth of increases. We kind of missed it on the one. This year this is the increase from the state's budget this year was the 226.
Good news, all right.
Yes.
Any questions or discussion? All in favor? Are there any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Informational item, the quarterly highway capital status report was included for committee review. Any questions for Nick?
Yeah, and this one I don't know as we have anything super exciting to share. Things are slow. There's been, small little improvements on some projects, but nothing great to say, hey, we're going to build a bridge next month or anything exciting like that. But we definitely can answer questions if you have any.
Dan?
Yeah, I appreciate that you're putting your current July 26 notes in red, so we went right to the current statuses. Thank you.
Yes, and we've kind of always done that, but you got to make sure that you print in color. That's been an issue before. Or look at it on the screen. But, in sake of saving time, I don't know as you want me to go through every one of these unless there's not a lot of excitement there.
Any questions from committee and the report? If not, anything else you want to brief us on this morning? Well, it's now afternoon. Yeah.
It's afternoon now. Quick note on fuel, gas. It's almost planed back out to exactly where it was last month. It did go down. We ordered and kind of watched the markets and watched the news and placed some orders last week. Filled both of them up. Good thing we did. It went up, diesel fuel went up 34 cents this week. So we saved like $2,200 there. So we're full. We have looked at a 3-year look back of annual usage for gallons on gas and fuel. I know we had talked before and I didn't really have a good number. As we sit right now, my guess is, best educated guess, we're going to be about 100,000 short. We plan on looking at it because we're full now and we still have 60 to 65,000 left in that account. We definitely have another order of each. That'll get us at least through another month. We'll keep monitoring things and then try to come to you guys with a resolution to go to contingent fund for currently, I would say 100,000, but I'd like to let things progress a little farther and then maybe we can adjust. That's based on current prices. That all could change. If things get better, then maybe we don't need that much. They get worse, we need a little more. But currently, we're not in a too bad of a spot to let things roll for another month at least. And then the other thing, we have 3 different projects we're putting together for possible entries to the WQIP for grant funding. We don't have all the numbers back yet. Once we have them, we're going to go to administration and have a conversation about where they are and what the prices are. I don't feel we're not going to have time to come back to this committee before we submit because they have to be submitted by July 31st. This one's a little different with Terry's. He had to have a resolution to even go into that. This one does not require that. This is the same one that we did for Caroline Depot, which is 80-20, but we can do the 20% in kind to show that we talked about.
What's WQIP?
Water Quality Improvement Grant. So there's 3 of them that we're going to go for that we identified. 2 out of the 3 turn into bridges. One currently is a bridge just because of the width. Lewis Street, down by Dan's, the one we cleaned out, that culvert's failing. We were working with B&L. That one's actually done. And we have another one on Paddington Road that was a leftover from our culvert in New York about 5 years ago. That was one of the culverts that got pulled. We're going to get some numbers on that one. And where's the third? Chipman's Corners. That is a dual culvert that is currently not a bridge, but it will be. It will be turned into one for sure.
Is that at the base of in the dip?
Right in the dip by Ellard's house right there.
Probably should have been a bridge years ago.
Yes. That one we have issues because it's a twin culvert. As trees and debris come down, blocks the culvert, starts to wash the road out, is a trout stream. You know, these are all, could be, I mean, the odds of us getting funded for all three would be amazing. Can't believe we would.
Policy doesn't require you to have a resolution to apply for the grant, but to notify the committee, correct?
Believe so. So, I mean, we definitely, once we got these numbers, could send that to all five of you. Let you know this is, you know, where we're at. This is how the numbers came. But the July 31st deadline it's a hard deadline to meet. And like I said, once we get them, we'll go to administration first and just kind of, this is where we're at. These are the numbers, get the opinions there, and then we can share it with the group.
Thanks, Nick. Any questions? If not, are there any committee members' reports this afternoon? John?
I just want to throw this out there because from yesterday's Soil and Water Board, we were informed about a soil health workshop that's happening next Thursday, and there's not too many meetings to get this word out, but it's going to be held on July 23rd between 5:30 and 7:30 p.m. at the Groundswell Farm located off of Rachel Carson Way in Eco Village. Which is an incubator farm. There's a website, www.newyorksoilhealth.org/fielddays/ if you want to register and get more information. A little bit more information from that website says you can learn the foundations of healthy soil through interactive demonstrations, exploring composting, mulching, weed suppression, soil testing, and interpreting results and other practical strategies used in organic farming systems. I'll repeat that at the meeting on Tuesday, but I just want to get the word out there in case there's farmers listening in on our meeting, you know, or wanna-be farmers.
So will we have a proclamation for Soil Health Field Day? Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks for putting that out there. Anything further?
I know we're at the end of time. I just wanted to correct something I said earlier about the insurance. We are self-insured. What is not, but what we can only insure up to what the value of that. So just wanted to clarify that because I misspoke earlier. That's it.
But I think the auto insurances that we do cover, or we do have in addition to that self-insurance.
It's part of our self-insurance, but we have to follow what the, you know, we just like any other insurance, we have to follow.
Personal injury is part of that.
Part of that. Yes, that's correct. Sorry, just want to make sure we got that record straight.
Okay. There being no further business before the committee, we will adjourn.